Very good. So hi, everybody. Look, I'm lucky enough to have Corissa Sobello with me from Refurb to Invest. Corissa, thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Gianni, for having me. I'm very excited to be able to present an awesome, jam-packed 30-minute masterclass for your followers and our followers today. So thank you.
Awesome. No, it's great to have you. Thank you so much. In this session, we're going to be going through essentially a little bit about renovating and increasing value of people's investment properties. I do want to make sure that everybody's aware that we are live tonight, so they can, more than happy for them to submit questions. But I also wanted to ask if you could give me a little bit of detail about yourself, your experience, your background, just for the audience at home.
Sure. So my name is Corissa Sobello. I am the founder and CEO of two amazing companies in the renovation space, Refurb to Invest and Before You Renovate. So basically what we do is we help property owners unlock instant value from their property, whether it's a rental and they want more income and more equity, or selling and want to unlock more profit. Or we end up getting clients that come back and say, now can you do the home we're living in and make it our dream home again? Purely because our strategy is a strategy. It's not just run and renovate. It's what's the outcome? What are you trying to do? How can we create a plan that saves the money, ticks the wish list, adds value for what their particular purpose is? And then through that, 12 years later, I've now created a renovation program for those that want to learn how to do it, to unlock property and flipping and building their portfolio through a course and coaching one-on-one with me. So that's a bit about me.
Yeah, I feel that, particularly in this era, there's a lot of the lifestyle TV shows like The Block, and particularly on Nine Life. Yeah, there's a lot of the American renovation shows, especially. People nowadays are a little bit more game to try a renovation uplift project as well. And I wouldn't recommend that lightly to anybody. And it's always great to have somebody like yourself to guide them throughout the journey as well.
Yes, and I want to quickly say, because we do have a lot to talk about today, but I want to say those shows are amazing because they do entice people to realize that there is massive value in property if you do the right renovation. However, it sometimes can imply that you can get things done very cheap, which is not always the case. And I'm very big on make sure it's done properly and don't cut corners. Yes, you want to add value at a low price point. So we are talking about today adding value instantly on a shoestring budget. At the same time, I can't stress enough that it's not, you've got to have a realistic budget at the same time. And you've got to make sure what you're doing is going to be compliant and work for the property. And according to building codes, and make sure it's done properly. So I want to make sure people also understand that, because that is still important. While if you do the plan right and you do the strategy right, you can unlock big money. And that's what I'm here to give some value about.
Yeah, 100%, because especially on those shows as well, you got to think on those lifestyle shows, there's a foreman on site to, go through the safety features and supervise to ensure that all the work is up to code. There's a lot of sponsorship involved as well. So they get a lot of free stuff.
Yes, yes, is the main part. Yeah.
And then a lot of trades provide discounts. I know on the block it's up to 50% trades provide discounts in exchange for exposure of the work that they do on the show as well. So there's a lot of budgetary constraints that people aren't aware of, that they're not exactly forthcoming on that show as well, or those shows rather.
However, I will say though, it is really good to create a creative visual way for people to think about how they can do upgrades to their home, because it's more and more now that you can get small upgrades that can get you big profit returns. Again, it's understanding what to do, how to do it, what's the right color, what's the right material, save costs, but get the return. And that's what we're going to dive into.
Yeah, 1,000%. Yeah, I think, you're right. If anything, it will intrigue people and get them to understand how they can be creative somewhat and maximize value. And that's really why we've got you on the show or live stream tonight, to talk about how people can maximize the return on investment and minimize essentially the budget set, because it can really blow out.
Yeah, completely. And it's understanding And just a couple things that I want to straight up point out. Like if you are an investor and you've owned property, whether it's you're going to sell or rent or just your home that you want to do some work to, it's important to firstly know, and actually I want to say up front, anyone watching, whether you're watching live or you're not watching the replay, grab a pen and paper and make some notes as you go, because I'm going to give you some really good content and I don't want you to be like, oh, I missed it. Grab it, write it down, and get yourself some actionable steps that you can take away from this to implement. So first thing I'd say is always make sure you have a good understanding of what your goal is. What is the purpose of you investing into the property? Because if you don't have a cool understanding of that, then you can put the wrong budget, whether it's too little or too much. And that's exactly what I want to dive into in our talk today, because that is the key part. It's not always just what you spend, but what's the return you can actually get from it. And you don't know that until you know exactly what your purpose is to why you're throwing money at your property.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Well, look, that's a good segue. I understand you've got a bit of a presentation here. So look, what I'll do is I will share that with everybody. And
Amazing.
for those that are viewing, please don't hesitate to send through any questions as we go along. We will stop at logical points throughout the presentation and live stream to answer any questions that you have. So again, please don't hesitate to submit them through. But Corissa, let's take it away. Please go through this presentation with us.
Yeah, so I introduced myself already, so you guys know who I am. Before you renovate, refurb to invest, so we can continue through that. Now, the main part I want to talk about is, you know, and in my experience being in this space for 12 years, I see a lot of homeowners that leave money on the table, and purely because they either invest the wrong way, too little budget, too much budget, poor presentation, cheap fixes. And the common thing, especially I find in rental properties, and actually sometimes when people are selling, they think, well, I want to spend little because why would I spend more than what I need to? So I'll just spend a little amount and then I'll just go sell it, or I'll get another tenant back in. And this is the big thing that I want, and I do this every time I'm talking to homeowners. I want them to think more about what is the return that they want to actually make? How much more income, how much more equity, how much more profit? That is more important and the driver than what your spend is. So what happens is when you're thinking about what you're spending, then you cut corners, or you do a quick, I call them Band-Aid fixes, because landlords do them all the time. Oh, there's the leak in the bathroom. We'll just do like Mega Seal. Now, yes, that works. But how much more value could you get if you did it differently and then able to really increase your rent and your equity? So things like making sure that where you put your money is the right thing and not just fixing it as it breaks. And that also does come down to the agent you're selling with and the property manager. And this has been really big lately for many people that I've been talking to, because if you're not getting the right information from the professionals that you're going to, that's really important as well. Ensuring that they're helping you understand, well, how much more value can you add? How much more could you sell for? How much more rent could you get? And then what's the plan in order to really map that out and achieve that? So that's the biggest thing I see. Now, I want to give you, everyone watching, and we can move to the next slide, 3 steps that fast tracks, well, this is what I do, that can fast track the framework to boosting your rental and your sale value. Now, I want to say this too. I'm going to give you as much as I can today in the time we have. Rental and sale is similar, but it is slightly different. So you can't do the same rental strategy as you would selling, because one, you're selling it to unlock profit in that moment, and rental, it's long-term. So you might do different techniques. It might be more of the longevity that is most important. So I'm going to give you a little bit of tips around both, but I just want to point out that they are slightly different, and it's based again on what's your purpose. What is it that you are aiming to achieve? Understanding that first. So there's a 3-step process that I look at, and it's 1, cosmetic changes, 2, functional fixes, and 3, perceived value uplift. Now, I'm going to dive into the 3 of these so you can get a good understanding. So again, make sure you've got the pen and paper ready, because we're going to go through this in a bit more detail now. So number 1 is cosmetic changes, and we can flick slide. Now, this is more when you're focusing on what you can do to visually make the property impressive. Now, this works for rental and for sale. So we're talking things like painting and cleaning up the landscaping and presenting good. So we're not at this point talking about doing renovations as such. It's more what cosmetic things can you do? And this is really crucial. And this is all about being on a very tight budget. So if one, you've just got limited funds, or two, your value of your property isn't that significant that you're not there to spend $100,000. And this is the other important thing, knowing your purpose, but knowing it's a bit of a formula that we do when we work with clients as to what their budget should be. There's a kind of way that we determine it. And it helps ensure that for your particular property, the value, the location, the demographic, you're putting the right amount in. You're not going to go spend $100,000 on a property that's regional, that's only worth $300,000. But you're not going to spend $20,000 on a property in the inner west that's worth $2 million. So it's understanding what you can get out of your property and then putting the equivalent budget that works to add the most amount of value. So little things in this part in step one is being very cosmetic. So window furnishings, minor things that are low cost that can instantly boost that first impression. Because whether it's rental or sale, I always say this to people, you've got to think of it that to one level, you're trying to create a dream home for your client, for your ideal tenant, your ideal buyer. Doesn't mean you're going to go gut the thing and renovate it to scratch, but think about that when you walk in. So I say to my clients, if you wouldn't live in your home, then why would you expect a tenant to live in your home? Like people go, I don't want to spend money. And I'm like, would you live there? Have you seen what your property looks like? But they're like, yeah, but I don't want to spend money. And I'm like, okay, but would you live there? Well, no, I wouldn't. So why, like, you're expecting a tenant to run it at renting your house? If you want a tenant that's going to pay you the least amount and potentially be the type that falls behind and doesn't look after it properly, then that's fine. And for some landlords, that works out for them. But if you're trying to get a good tenant who's going to pay good money, look after it, then the property needs to be at a great level to start with. So what cosmetic things can you do from when you walk in the door to make it feel like it's not got holes and mold and things falling apart and things looking all worn and torn? Basic things. And you can do basic upgrades. You don't have to go put the most expensive carpet or, completely put blinds and curtains and things that cost more than what you need. It's understanding what you can do. So when they walk in, there's already a feel of, okay, this looks nice. I'm happy with this. I like this. So that's
get an idea on. Sorry, because you can get an idea on like how much more value and how much more income you can add to a property as well. Like you're not going to add thousands of dollars a week or something like that to a property, because there's going to be X amount that people are willing to pay for a property. And then you can see on the market as well, okay, if this property in this current condition is worth $700, then what would a $750 a week property, what would an $800 a week property look like? And you can have a look in that area to see, okay, well, to get it to $750 or $800 a week, I got to do X, Y, Z in terms of cosmetics as well.
Correct. And that's what's important is when you're doing this, again, rental or sale, understanding the market, what's going on at the time, because you can have one property that you literally do a few cosmetic things and you get an extra $50. And you have another property that has some bigger upgrades that can be done or need to be done, and they get $200 more. So again, it's knowing what can you get out of your individual property, and then what funds do you have available, so you can determine, well, do I do quick fixes now? And then maybe in 2 years' time, I need to gut the bathroom and the kitchen and open a wall up, and that's going to completely transform. And so again, and I'm going to walk through this later in the presentation as well, we're talking here basic. We're talking here, if you're on a shoestring budget, what can you do that can impact your rental straight away or your sale straight away without you putting in $50K? But at the same time, it's understanding what's the value, because you might get more value doing a bigger injection and get more profit out of it than doing a small 10, 20 grand. So it's knowing your property, what you can get and at what stage, because every property is at different stages, right? You can go to a property where everything looks neat, but a few upgrades and it's amazing. But then 10 years later, things are starting to deteriorate, and now you need a new bathroom, and now you need that purple kitchen isn't in fashion anymore. You've got to change it. So you can do quick changes, or you can do a substantial investment, but now you pull out big money. So it comes down to every property owner needs to have, I always say, at least a 5-year plan. What are they trying to do now, in 2 years, in 5 years, so they can work towards the right thing and not last minute try to unlock money to work out how to fix their property because it's vacant, because suddenly the tenant's moved out and there's all these fixes. So just being able to know in advance what you should do. And that's what, we do with our clients all the time. So let's dive into step 2, because step 2 now is more when you're trying to remove objections. So what are the things that need to be repaired? What needs to be clean? It's a bit more now where, buyers or tenants will come in, and even something as simple as the fridge spot isn't big enough. Well, how can you change that? Can you pull that spot out, rearrange it a little bit, put another cabinet in? I've had properties I've gone into, and literally the PM has said straight to me, here's the biggest problem. There's no dishwasher. There's no cooling. There's no fans. So where can you put minor things? You're not doing a full renovation, but where can you do minor things that can completely cover off things that the good tenant, the ideal buyer is going to come in and be objections to them? Well, if we're going to spend more, this is like this, but the property next door has all these things done to it. So let's jump into that. So understanding, well, what's your purpose? Who's the ideal buyer or tenant? And understanding that, because landlords sometimes think that they just have a one type of tenant, but there really isn't. There's very different types of tenants. And if your property can grab the top end level of the tenant, that high end tenant, where they might even own property themselves. I know a lot of people that own property and rent. So they might own property. They look after it. Don't worry, my journey too. You do it. You live where you want to live, and you own properties where you want to own properties. I think that the dynamic around owning the house you live in for all your life is starting to change. And I know people everywhere that have massively successful businesses, but they will rent in the city. They'll rent on the beach. They'll rent in the spots they want, but then they own 10 properties everywhere else. So again, how do you attract that tenant? And in fact, I'm going to tell you a quick story. There was a property that I saw not long ago that was water view, absolutely stunning, yet the whole unit was outdated. So I think if you're going to spend a couple grand, like you're asking a couple grand on rent, you're obviously going to get already a high-end tenant, because you've got water view. Not every family is going to be able to afford a few grand a week. But with that view, you've got a stunning property with that view, but you've got an outdated property. So how much more would a high-end worth tenant pay to get that amazing property and the water view? So all these things is what I kind of think of. What are the objections? So know who your ideal tenant is, or buyer if it's going to be selling, so you can remove any objection that they need. Like really, it's planning an in-depth strategy, Gianni. People don't do this. They just go, I'm just going to put, I went into a property actually around Drummoyne a few years back. I was going to some open homes, and I actually, the landlord was there. She was like, I'm not going to put it through an agency. I'm the landlord. And I said, okay, what are you doing to it? And she said, I'm going to change the carpet, put more carpet back in. I was like, okay. And then I'm going to paint. And I'm like, okay, what color? And, I got a bit of feedback from her, and I walked out and I was like, oh my God, she's doing everything wrong. She's putting money in, but she's doing everything wrong. And how much more rent she would get. It had water view, it had a pool, but it was an older block. So there was always going to be a ceiling level of how much people would pay because the block's older. But it had view, it had so much that if she put floorboards, if she had painted a better color, opened the space, and then next level, which is step number 3 that I'm going to dive into now, perceived value. Add perceived value. You don't need to gut everything and start again. Sometimes you do, because everything's leaking, everything's falling apart. You can only revive a kitchen so many times, and then it has to go in the bin. But if it's still neat and still functioning, but just the color's off, then facelift it. Facelift the bathroom. There are so many strategies and techniques now to make an area look like it's brand new, but it's not. So you save a whole lot of money, but again, you've added perceived value. Imagine a tenant walking into a property and everything looks like it's been renovated. And it's not that you haven't, it's that you've just done it in a very strategic way, because you may not need to gut everything if it doesn't need it. So it's knowing what to do, how you can transform a space in the most cost-effective way that people come in and are like, wow, I'm blown away. This looks amazing. And you're more competitive. Everyone thinks I'll just fix it and I'll just go on market and I'll get a tenant. Then they wonder why they're on market for 6 weeks and they're losing rent after week after week. And the real estate's losing money. And then I'm like,
the vacancy rate has come up a little bit. Yeah, the vacancy rates come up a little bit. So people can they can afford to be a little bit more picky and choosy nowadays. Yeah, especially.
Correct. And the thing is, and I think I mentioned this to you the other day in our meeting too, Johnny, like you can have, if your property is presenting at its best, you can have multiple people apply and then select who fits your profile better. And I remember a property that I did do that the property manager said to me, not only did we add value, but we also found that we had so many applications, we could select what type of tenant. So not only we get amazing group of tenants applied, but we could select, do we want the mum and dad with 1 baby or mum and dad with 4 kids? Because the house is big enough to have a family with a few kids. But it was like, well, if I've got someone applying that needs the bigger house but is less kids, well, that's less wear and tear. So we have a choice. So we're giving our landlords choice. And it's all based on how you present the home with the 3 steps that I just said. Doing that in the most strategic way will instantly boost your asset value, your income, your profit, whichever you're trying to do, if you do it the right way.
Because that's where the value of property comes from the demand. And so if you increase the perceived value, like you said, through little things, nowadays you don't have to rip out the whole kitchen. You can just change the cupboards or the handles. There's benchtop paint. There's tile paint. That sort of stuff as well. So there's plenty of things that people can do to increase the perceived value and create demand for property as well. Whether
Correct.
it's demand for it as a rental, or if you're flipping it or selling it, and you want to let it go for a higher price, a demand for eventual sale.
Correct. And that's the thing, it's taking time. And this is the other big point I want to stress. Don't do things last minute. You need to have a 5-year plan. Know what your plan is. Know what your goals are at each stage. Make time so you can forward plan. Okay, well, next year we need to invest in some money. Maybe it's for tax benefits. Maybe because you know that you're under market value right now. So you're happy to go, well, you know what? We want to get it to market value. Maybe there's a difference of $200-$300, but you need to do a renovation or a facelift to do that. Plan it so you've got all your finances and everything's lined up, rather than last minute tenant moves out and then you're rushing to do things and you lose more money that way and you miss out on opportunity to make more money.
Yeah, 100%. No, that's right. It's all about increasing the demand and adding value to the property. 100%.
Correct. Now I want to take you through a case study. So if you want to flip to the next one. So we did talk about shoestring budget. Now there is lots you can do on the shoestring budget. This one here, they did invest a bit more, and I want to point out one fact. If your main concern is what you're investing, then yes, go as low as you can and just tick off the main things. Follow those 3 steps, you'll make a return. If on the other side, budget isn't as, like, if you've got extra funds, then really consider what's the maximum value you can actually add. So for example, with this property, it was worth 1.6. The rental was 47,000. This was a couple of years ago, actually. And I purposely put this one because we helped this client. They actually lived overseas. We planned the strategy. It was executed. But not only that, they got an extra 150 in rent per week straight after. Sorry, not 150. 280. Forgetting my numbers.
Yeah, wow.
Missing all these projects in my head. 280 more per week. But not only that, it's gone up another few hundred since then. So the more valuable your property is, as the market booms and you change tenants over time, you keep being able to increase your rent at the same time. So this was how it looked. Now, look, it wasn't extremely bad, but it had a really small kitchen that you can't quite tell, but it's actually purple. It had carpet, floorboards, tiles. There was like a mixture of 5 different floorings. It was missing some wardrobes. The bathrooms were that real classic look, but they were really outdated. And in fact, One of them was completely leaking. So we found evidence of the waterproofing gone. And everything just looks really run down. Now we're talking, this is Northern Beach at French's Forest. So off the top of my head, I think it was about 950 it was before. Now I'll take you to the after photo. This is what we did. Very simple. We did strategize because of the leaks to the bathrooms that we did need to redo them, but everything was simplified. So new flooring, larger kitchen. Now, again, we did redo that kitchen. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes we can facelift them. I plan a strategy on how to do more facelift methods so we can save more cost. But it comes down to the value uplift. The reason why I gutted that is because if you can see, and again, if your people watching want to message me directly, I'll send them the slides as well. But we actually redid a bit of the layout of the kitchen. So it was a really odd shape before. There was no pantry. There was no dishwasher. Yeah, so you open it up more. We made it more functional. The bathroom, same thing. I'm actually not, that doesn't have the photo of the other bathroom, but the other bathroom was just bath, tiny shower. We rearranged the layout, got a nice big walk-in shower. So again, what can you do? It was already leaking. We had to already gut it. So how can we then ensure that the layout is going to add more value? So at the end, with all the cosmetic things we did, again, added perceived value, everything functional. It went up by 280 per week. Now, this is a whole other masterclass to run through the formula, but it literally covers the cost of the work. So it wasn't an outlay that the client had to worry about. It all factored in, the numbers stacked amazing for them. And the asset value went up by 300,000, like massive.
That's
They
awesome.
doubled their asset value. Now, this was a couple of years ago. It's gone up further than that now. And now next year they're looking at selling it. So next year, all they've got to do is do maybe some touch-ups of paint, style it, and put on market. And all this time, they've been depreciating on the tax benefits as well. So much there that you can do. But again, know the right strategy, execute it correctly, have the right plan so you can maximize your benefits out of it. And that's exactly what these guys do.
Cut this tree down that's in the way there so you can get more of a water view.
I don't think it's water. I think it's mountains.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah, I don't they're near the water, but I can't remember. It was a couple years ago. But the deck, looked amazing.
Yeah. Wrap around. Yeah, it's nice.
Oh,
Beautiful.
Yeah. It was stunning. It was really, really good. So what I do want to finish up with, because I know half an hour is jam-packed so quickly, is just to let people a little bit know on some of the things that we offer and how they can reach out to us. And I've got a couple of little gifts for today as well. So there's two ways that we help clients. And one is a very hands-off approach, which is our Refurb to Invest brand. And it's where we plan their strategy. So if they're Sydney based, we've gone up to down to Wollongong and up to the coast. We've got a few at the coast at the moment. We literally, they don't have to do anything. We would plan the strategy. We tender it to a panel of builders and trades that we work with. We negotiate costing. You would have seen the last on the testimonial. Cover. We saved them 31,000 in trade costs. So we negotiate trade costs, and as well as the fact that our strategy is planned to save as much cost as possible. So we're very different because we're not the trade, we're not the builder. We're there to make sure we can get our client the best strategy. Same as you, Gianni. You don't just buy property. You're there to make sure you get them the right property that makes them the right returns, the right yields. So we've niched into that because I did this for myself on a few properties, and then I built a business to help people do that. So we have that option. And then we also have the Renovation Wealth Mastery program, which we've compiled into 16 steps that take people through a journey of buying to identifying properties they have now, or properties that they want to buy, how to renovate them strategically, how to manage it, how to design it, how to plan the right concepts, all the way through to trades, agents, marketing. It's a big, intense program that we do, and I walk you through it. I do it with you. It's through a coaching platform as well. So you can learn it to be replicating, whether you want to get into flipping or building a bigger portfolio. So we take into that as well. But what I want to mainly mention today is we are running another masterclass. So if Everyone's been loving all the tips I've been giving. I've crammed into half an hour. I'm running another masterclass next Wednesday, and it's called the 5-step formula to instantly boosting asset value. So it's a 60-minute masterclass, so I can give more content and dive into more. So that is up for grabs. I will post the link actually to your group. That might be easier. Anyone can register. And as a bonus for anyone that watches this, that's on and watching, I'm offering a free strategy call. So 30-minute, literally it's strategy. So you can run me down through where you're at the moment, what's going on with your properties. And if I can give you any direct strategy, I'll give you that so we can sort of help you forward plan that 5-year plan. And we also have a group, renovation and property and renovation community group. So any of your followers are welcome to join that. We post a lot of content in that all the time. And aside from that, that's everything that I wanted to share with you all right now.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Corissa. Look, it's been really insightful walking through, especially the case study around how people can maximize not only rental value, but capital value as well. I'd encourage anybody, if you're still watching, please don't hesitate to leave any questions. But yeah, that'd be great as well. Please do leave the links to your masterclass, a link for people to be able to walk through a strategy session with you, and links to your group as well for any would-be renovators, investment property renovators out there. That'd be great.
Definitely. Yeah, no worries. I'll send that all through to you and you can post it into your group. But it was amazing to be on. And is there anyone on that wants to ask questions? I've got a couple minutes if they want any live questions that want to be asked. But I would love to actually send this to my group as a replay as well. So there'll be
for sure.
So much value out of this.
More than happy. We'll go from there. If anybody does have questions and don't want to ask them live, please don't hesitate to shoot them through to Corissa. Maybe DM them or put them in the comments if you're watching this later on down the track. And then we're also going to have this available to replay on YouTube. So I'll make that available as well.
Actually, and if anyone wants to get in contact with me, you can follow Corissa Sobello on Facebook and Instagram, as well as Before You Renovate and Refurb to Invest. On Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. We're kind of everywhere, so you'll see me. Can't miss me with this hair, I reckon.
Yeah, very good. Thanks again, Corissa. Really appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you, Gianni. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks.